Are you wanting to boost your confidence? You want to know what are some traits of confident people and how you can start living them and becoming one, right? So you therefore get better results in your life even more. Well, today I'm going to share some really confident traits that I've learned from one of my mentors and teachers, Peter Sage. And if you stay until the end, I'm going to give you an extra point then that is going to be really useful to take away. So I actually came across this guy, Peter Sage, who's a brilliant, amazing entrepreneur, but he's also very, very good and he's an expert in human behavior. All right. And he's also very on the ball with things like the non-physical world, quantum alignment, like how we can control reality a lot more. Right. And all that kind of sounds a bit woo-woo, but it's quite like scientific when it comes to it. And I've certainly seen some strange things come out in my world. Now, we're not going to dive into that too much. He's just generally a very certain, charismatic, confident guy. And I've been learning a lot from him recently. And I reference him sometimes. So I wanted to share some of the traits because this guy is killing it in all areas. I'm not just talking about business. I'm talking about health. I'm talking about his relationships. I'm talking about his emotions. And he's a very, very confident man. In fact, he's so confident that he went to prison once and he went in there happy. Now, he said he wasn't happy 100% of the time, of course, right? But he had trained himself to be able to deal with that. And the reason he went to prison was because there's a bit of injustice and he fell out with, basically, read his book, The Inside Track. He fell out with a company. And basically, he ended up being in prison for 6 months. But he went in there with such a mentality at how he trained himself. And most of us kick off when like someone puts the wrong sauce on like our menu, right? This guy goes into prison and he's just like cool and calm, right? So I think there's a lot we can learn from this guy. Okay, so what I would also say before I dive into some of his points is pick yourself a role model. Maybe it's not Peter, like I'm saying. Pick yourself a role model, someone who really displays a lot of confidence. Actually ask them what they're doing, right? Now, confidence for me means having trust in yourself, and it can be different in different areas, right? So I wanted to talk about what I learned from Peter. Ask yourself this, though. If you're like learning from someone who's not, or you're learning from the people around you and they're not the most confident people, what are you going to get? Probably the same results as them. And we don't think about this. Like people are always wanting to give what they term advice. But in my opinion, I learned this from Peter himself, actually, that advice is only advice if the person is ahead of you in the journey that you're going to, and they've got the results that they're talking about. Everything else is an opinion. It's theory, right? So if someone tells you how to start a business, or you shouldn't start a business, and they've never tried it themselves, or they've majestically failed, well, that's an opinion. That's not advice. So let's go into some points then. So the first one, he is very certain he can handle uncertainty. Now, as human beings, what do? We want to be certain. We want to be certain we've got a job for life. We want to be certain that we're not going to lose our jobs. We want to be certain our relationships are going to last forever. We want to be certain that we're going to make X amount of money in X amount of time. And we want to be certain that we're going to get to a certain weight or a certain shape when we follow a certain diet. Guess what? There is absolutely no certainty or guarantees. I work in sales and people are, what's a guarantee? There isn't a guarantee. The two guarantees in life, what someone once taught me are, well, three, I guess, technically: birth, death, and taxes, which I thought was funny. Well, taxes are, I think the tax is a joke one, but I think there's always going to be taxes. But again, there's no guarantees in life. So why go for certainty? The certainty he has and he believes in is in himself, right? He says certainty is an illusion. It's something we make up. It's like there's no certainty in nature, as he says, right? There isn't, right? However, there's going to be uncertainty in life. Things are going to there's going to be a variety of things, and we don't know what's going to come at us. Now, we can have structures and systems in place. You've got to have some degree of that, of course. Like, you want to have plans for your money, you want to have plans for looking after your family, all those kind of things, of course. Yet when we get blown off course, we're like, oh my God, I'm not certain anymore in that or that. Well, don't be certain in other things, be certain in yourself. And Peter just lives this. He's certain he can handle any kind of uncertainty, like going to prison, right? So that's the first one. The second one, he always focuses on things bigger than him. When we're usually suffering and we're not in a good place, that's because we're focusing solely on ourselves. Now, we need to focus and care for ourselves, of course. Yeah, if we're always focusing on ourselves and not looking at a bigger picture, then how can we believe in ourselves? Because we don't feel like we've got a bigger purpose. Peter's always looking at big things, he'll achieve it, and then he's looking to inspire other people. So that's why he's got so much belief in themselves. The third one, he accepts, this kind of links to the first one, maybe I should have included it. Anyway, he accepts the twists in what he calls the rivers of life. Most of us are trying to fight the river. He talks about how he's able to accept and then go with like the bends in the river, because we think life should be a straight line. It's never going to be a straight line. He just accepts it and realizes it. He doesn't get blown off when it gets knocked out of control. He accepts it and goes with it. Right. And then the final point of these main ones I want to share is he doesn't try and be right or impose his model, what he calls the model of the world, on other people, right? You can't get someone to change their beliefs. Only they can, right? You can just share your perspective. And the problem is, and I mean, I've been guilty of this, especially in my childhood. I was like trying to get other people to think I'm right and they're wrong. No, you've got different models of the world, and their model of the world is right to them, and your model of the world is right to you. When we lose confidence, it's like we try to convince people to think a certain way, and then we don't feel like we're in control, because we aren't in control of it. You can only act a certain way. If you show up and do your best for something, well, you should praise yourself, pat yourself on the back for that, because you've turned up and you've done what you could, and you cannot change someone else's view. And that's what Peter displays as well. Okay, and I just got a bonus one for you as well. Now, one of the things about Peter is he knows his strengths and weaknesses, and he doesn't try, and a lot of us try and do it, he doesn't focus too much on his weaknesses. Now, sometimes there are things we got to do. What he does is he hires the people in the right places for where he realizes and this is not just Peter, but general successful entrepreneurs and people doing well. They're like my mentor, Joseph McClendon, as well. He's like, he says he's got all the technical skills of a circus pig, which I find hilarious. So he's like, he hires people. However, put Joseph McClendon on a stage or in a coaching session, he is world-class, one of the best in the world. Same with Peter, world-class speaker, top class. And he knows to stick to his strengths and hire people in other areas. Now, maybe it's not an option to hire loads of people, right, for you now, right? Okay, that's fine. What I would guide you to think, again, like as always, it's up to you to decide what you think, is start focusing more on some of your strengths and ideally things you enjoy as well, and then start honing in on them. And then only do the things that you're not so strong on when you want to, right? Now, if there's something you like and you're not as strong as you'd like to be in it, well, maybe get a coach or mentor and help you with that area. The problem is we get this, I feel like we get this wrong message from a young age in school, and it's just from like people who have not, like people who are giving us that guidance, that they're usually well-intentioned people, but they're usually kind of been doing a certain role or used to a certain way of life most of their life, and they'll say something like work on your weaknesses. Whilst should we really be working on weaknesses, or should we be honing in on our strengths? And this is what I see in Peter, honing in on his strength. And guess what? That boosts his confidence even more. Like I say, sometimes you got to do things that are your weaknesses, but try not to overload yourself with things that aren't just in your boat. All right. So that's what I've got for you today. I appreciate you for being here. You're improving other people's lives by being the best you. And remember, you are in control of your own self-esteem and confidence.